It is time to demold the plate or sheet mold and clean the clay out of it. I did grease up the sides with some cooking spray. I'm going to flip it over and give it a little bit of a push from the back. There is my mold. There are paper thin bits of plaster that went up underneath some parts, but they are paper thin, so I can just push on them with my finger and they break off. I'm going to work on just digging out this clay. And I've got a metal tool here. What I really want is a wooden tool, because a metal tool could scratch the walls or the side of the mold. And I don't want to change the mold. I just want to clean the mold. Bad habit that I have is throwing my clay onto the table, because then I have to pick it up twice. I'm going to scoop a garbage can close and just throw it in the garbage. Now I'm using water and a short, stiff bristled brush, which is really just one of these that I cut the bristles down on, to work loose that clay that's along the edges and it's kind of hard to get to. The water-based clay really breaks down in water. If you ever wanted to be an archaeologist when you were younger, this will cure you of it. A flashlight is very useful for seeing down to nooks and crannies and changing the shadows so you can really see what's going on. I'm going to use it here on this eye because I've got some real fine picking to do. This mold is now clean enough where I can go to the next step. The next step for me is going out to the garden hose and just spraying this out really well, getting it good and irrigated so it's completely clean. Then, because I want to pour tonight, I'm going to put this in the oven for a little while and bake the moisture out of it so it'll suck more moisture out of the latex quicker. Okay, so this is what it looks like after being hosed out. It's pretty clean. I still see a little bit of clay in it, but it's nothing big. It's nothing that I'm really worried about. I can go ahead and pour up like this. But I'm going to bake first just to get the moisture out. If I had time, I would just set this out in the sun for a good 6 to 8 hours and let the moisture go out that way. But I'm going to bake it because it's YouTube Wednesday and this has got to be out tonight, or people will complain. The mold is now dry. I pulled it out of the oven. I baked it for about 30 minutes on 150, 170 degrees. Ultra Cal 30 can take that. I don't recommend baking other plasters. Just set it in the sun. I have some regular casting latex, and mine is really old. I just ordered a new drum, but it's a little chunky, so that's what we're going to get. I'm pushing it in to where I want it to go. Also, this is now so dry, these thin layers will dry really fast, and they'll stick to the latex on your brush. So you want to keep your brush really wet. If there's anything dry on your brush, then it's going to pull up the latex that you just put down. I could just fill this up with latex and let it sit for 15 or 20 minutes. But I think I want to do a layer approach on this one. That's a thin layer. I'm going to go set it in my warm garage by a fan, and this will be dry in about 10-12 minutes. And I'll be right back to do one more layer. It's been about 15 minutes. Time for another layer. I'm just painting in the same as before. That last layer has dried. As latex dries, it yellows. So color is a very good indicator as to whether or not something is dry. Is the excitement of layer 2. I have 2 layers of latex dried in here. I'm going to do the fabric reinforcement later. I just want to kind of rush to getting these out of the mold and painting them. Surprise! I'm rushing things. I have some dollar store baby powder. Latex will stick to itself. That means that wherever you have it, if it touches itself, it's going to stick unless there's some kind of a barrier. Baby powder is a great barrier because it's small, it goes everywhere. It's a really good barrier. So baby powder is what we normally use. Plaster powder is just as fine as baby powder. In a pinch, I will use Ultra Cal powder in order to seal off or dust off the latex pieces. Don't do that in a mask because then when they sweat and there's plaster powder in there, they get rocks in their mask with them, which is not fun. Alright, let's pull some stuff. And I like to keep a bit of baby powder on my hands also, so that as I peel up the backside, I'm baby powdering it. I have a sheet that came out of my mold just as I sculpted it. It's got my nose, it's got a right ear and a left ear and an eye, and it's beautiful. I have scissors, and I'm going to just trim these up really quick. I'm just trimming off the flash. There's obvious sculpted areas, and there's areas where latex are that are not sculpted areas. And that's all that I'm trimming away. All of these are trimmed. I'm going to, latex's natural color is a very pale skin tone. It's got a pretty good tone already. What I have here is actually an antique leather stain. This is tan from Tandy Leather, and I really like this stuff. The way that it works is you put it on fairly thick. It's an antique leather stain, so you're using one of my favorite techniques, which is antiquing. And I'm just trying to cover every bit of it. When you do this, wear gloves, because turns out people are made of leather, and this is leather stain. Just want to get off some of the extra antique without wasting it. And because I'm going for an aged, separated ear, this ear, you know, has been off of the body for a while and is now sewn onto someone else's mask. Now this is really good for me. But I can rub this down and take off even more of this antique and really get a good skin tone. I mean, that's a lot closer to my skin tone. But that's a simple start of an ear. I'm going to go and do the other pieces because I really like that finish. You know, it looks a little bit tanned, and that's good for leather. This is just an antique, water-based acrylic leather stain. Leather's an organic material, so is latex. It's tree sap. So this works very well on it. I'm going to do the back side too of these later, because there's a chance that someone will see the back side. I think that the leather stain is kind of one of my secrets. I use this on a lot of stuff, and it does really well for me. And skin around the eye is normally not as dark, so I'm going to take off a little bit more of that. And it would be that eye, because that's kind of part of the nose. And I will cut this out so that it's well known that it's an eye. And you could put something in there behind it. I had a nose. Here it is. This is Tandy Antique Leather Stain Tan. It works great on latex. I use this on some of my deranged masks. And I'm just putting it on liberally. And then I'm wiping it off. Now I want to make this look a little nastier. I have here a couple different mixes of my glue blood, which there's a separate YouTube tutorial for, and you can find it. This is a pretty dark blood. I like my blood dark normally, so this one is a darker, browner blood, and it's a lot more viscous, because I put in something called polyfiber. Polyfiber you can buy at Biddy Mold Supply. But I'm just putting this fresh nasty around the outside edge of the ear. And when this side dries, I will put it on the other side of the ear. I will do that to all of my stuff. Now that I have the aged blood on, I'm going to spread these guys out a little bit, and then I'll put on just a bit of the fresher, redder blood. And those two tones, you know, can kind of show age and just difference. Maybe some of this blood just comes out of the nose. It's just a lot fresher. And this is going to dry, and it'll still look pretty glossy. I'm just going to really blood up inside of that eye. Okay. All right. And there we have face body parts that we made together from this mold, from this cake pan that we got at Dollar Tree. The baby powder was from Dollar Tree. It's regular casting latex. And that's how awesome plate molds can be. Bye.